Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel, AmusedJester, and my name is Junior. And today we're going to be reviewing Beast Kingdom's DC Comics Superman. Nice logo over there, based on the Alex Ross style. I believe this is from his Justice comic book that he did, big size comic book. So not entirely the Kingdom Come one because it doesn't have the old logo. But of course, he did draw Superman in this costume, but I believe with the long ponytail and kind of like grayish hair on the sides. Anyway, DAH 142 from Beast Kingdom. So let's, here's the side of the packaging. Here's the back of the packaging. Kind of interesting posing on this figure. And at the other side, there's nothing on the top, but it does come with 4 extra pairs of hands, including the fisted hands that he's got on right now. So let's go ahead and open it up and we'll take a look and see what's going on with this figure. So there it is out of packaging. Let's take a look at the hands. This hand over here looks like some almost like a gripping hand like this, or a loose hand, but I can't really tell. Let's look at the detail. As we can see, not too much detail. I mean, it's soft, but you get the gist of what's going on with this one, right? Yeah. So got that hand, and this is the corresponding hand. This, I guess, will be the flight pose hand, like this, but it's too much. I guess I prefer like straight hand like that, because that's what I'm used to. Maybe even like this. Plus, with this one, you can use it as salute if you want to. You can use it a karate chop. A lot more uses than just flight hands. This is, I would consider these two as relaxed hands instead of flight hands. And this would be, I guess, the grabbing hands. Corresponding hand. Yeah. And then he has the pointed hands, which I think was something that I was referring to with the Batman figure. Yeah, I think pointed hands for Superman would be kind of acceptable. It's kind of, I'm just thinking out loud in terms of like what kind of gestural hands do you prefer and what fits the character, you know? You can even say, you can even use this for like, shh, quiet, I'm talking. Anyway, that's it for the hands. Let's take a look at the figure. First, we're going to take a look at the face sculpt, of course. So there it is. It's really close up on my camera, so distortion may be occurring at this point, but the only reason I'm doing this is so we can look at whatever detail you can see on this sculpt, and actually more of the paint application, right? So this does not use printing technology. Maybe even not even, I'm not sure about the tampo. I think tampos are where they use that rubber big ball to put the paint on. If they do that, then you don't see the kind of like the dot pattern that you see on printing technology for paint when you get close up. But look, the eyes are really good too. It's nice and semi-glossy. I think it's got the basic paint application that we expect. See, hair's good enough. Nothing spectacular, but still. You can see that there's a difference in terms of the paint application with the face and the skin tone of the neck. There's a little bit of greenish tinge that's appearing through on the paint sculpt, while the body's just plain. The Superman symbol is beautiful. There's no paint marks or anything. Nice and raised. It's not just painted on. I guess we'll take a look at the whole body now that we're here. You can see the difference again. I think this might be a different type of plastic as the one that was used on the body, but you can see the difference with the flesh hands and the ball joint. And as you can see, I'm holding it by, let's see, by the lower and starting to bend, but still pretty good though. It held it for a little bit. This one's better. I'm only saying that because we'll compare with another figure that I just recently received to make sure. Now, one definite improvement that I said, like I said, with the Alex Ross Batman, was I noticed that they're improving. Beast Kingdom is improving in terms of the wiring for the cape. And this proves it. The Superman proves it. Because here I have another Superman, or what is this? Composite Superman Batman. And this is basically using the same body style, even the same symbol, except of course it's cut here. But look at the cape. One of the most irritating thing about this cape was that it terminated, the wire terminated, like right here. So there is no wire going into the socket, which they easily could have done, because the result is, look, this actually goes into the cavity. And see, now it's a lot less floppy. But it's still, at this point now, I would say a stronger wire would have benefited this. And you know what though? Is it really going into the body? I can't tell if it's just a fold. But see here though, the crease that they made on the cape, it's not evident here. That's why I'm thinking it actually goes in. And then also you see that how the cape actually is closer to the nape of the neck compared to this one. I wonder if this was put together incorrectly, like this should have been like this. Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe it was meant to be similar to this, where this thing should have been closer. And then, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so unfortunately that is one of the, I guess, negatives about Beast Kingdom figures. I'm not particularly sure I like the fact that you can see this white thing here. I don't know what it's for. I wonder if it was a mistake. They made a mistake leaving it on here, and that's just a pattern. I don't know. I don't like that. It looks kind of messy. We'll take a look at the joints. The reason why I lifted it by here, one of the things with the Alex Ross Batman is it can't do that. See, it's not even gonna hold it. So here's the thing with Beast Kingdom, and it's kind of, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Remember, this is $48, right? It's kind of inconsistent in terms of the quality of the figure. It's the same material, same construction and everything, and yet for some reason this is holding the figure. It's not strong. Like if I were to jiggle it, I'm sure it's gonna fall. See? But it's still better than this one. The reason, but it's still holding a pose though. Like this can still hold a pose. See? It's not like floppy. But when you're posing it, then that floppiness will start to affect it. And it won't be able to hold any kind of angled pose for the legs. Unlike a McFarlane figure here, which obviously is strong, and weirdly enough, I don't know why, but McFarlane started doing kind of some sort of ratchet in the design of their figures. That would be kind of interesting for Beast Kingdom to do, because the ratchets doesn't really add any extra parts. I think basically what they did was in the disc of this knee hinge, instead of doing a circle, they did bumps enough, and then there's corresponding ones here, just enough to create that friction. If Beast Kingdom were to do that with their figures, it will be a game changer. Because I think Beast Kingdom is a good value. Here's the thing though, I've noticed this one right here. Look at the elbow. That's not right. Something is off. It just came off the socket. That's the other thing with Beast Kingdom. I don't know why, but for some reason their ball joints and maybe even their pegs, like here, it's too small. So it will pop easier than what you would expect. But you shouldn't be concerned because you can pop it back in again. The problem is, if you're not accustomed to it, if you're accustomed to other figures, you might think then it's kind of a low quality. I'm only pointing this out because later on I want to talk about why I do think this Beast Kingdom is an awesome line. You'll notice that this is already popped out. So you can even see the peg in that one. So I don't know why it's doing that for this particular figure. Like I said, there's some sort of inconsistencies going on with their products. Like, look at this one. See how this is completely not an issue, and the edge of the disc joint is perfectly aligned with the shape of the elbow. Like I said, this is the same. See how it popped out right now? This is exactly the same figure. They're basically using the same thing. I don't know why. It's just inconsistent in that way. It's not broken, and I'm trying to pop it off. Not with too much force, but I'm trying to pop it off. But there's enough in here to hold it together. I think it might have been that whatever in this disc hinge right here, there's maybe too shallow. That's why it's kind of not in the proper socket. It's not a big deal for me because, as you can see, it still works. It only becomes an issue when I do this, which you're not supposed to anyway, because look at the range in this one. It's not able to accomplish the same range as this one because the hinge on this one is perfectly placed. We'll talk a lot more on that later on, but let's look at the articulation range. That's just on the upper neck. Oh, I forgot. So this one doesn't have articulation at the bottom of the neck. And then looking down, it's good, pretty good. Of course, you're going to see some gaps on this one. That's going to be a given because you want, I at least for me, I want a better range anyway. And I don't see that gap unless I'm doing this. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. The articulation range on the shoulder is not complete T. You have to stop it there. If you push it any further, it's because this one, as you can see, if they had designed this notch over here to go all the way here, then you'd be able to do a good T-pose. But if you were to push it any more than that, which means you're going beyond this groove, you're going to pop the shoulder. And it will easily pop because it's got a small disc. Not a problem. Don't push it back in on a T-pose. It's not going to work because remember, that's how you popped it. So you want to put it like that, and you'll hear like a small pop when you put it in. Biceps are fine. Double jointed on the elbows, which is excellent. And then you have a ball joint on the wrist, which will basically give you all movements in all directions with a good range. See? The bottom of the rib cage has a joint that has a good movement sideways, a little bit on front, a lot better in the back, but then you move that in conjunction with the waist, which also has its own range of movement similar to what you do in the rib cage, and you get an excellent range at that point. So at this point, when you do that, then you add this one, yes, you can do a really good Superman flight pose. right? Which is, I mean, like, that's good for me. And by the way, you can obviously do this kind of pose. Okay. You also saw that it does have an up and down motion on the shoulder joint a little bit. Not a lot, but enough. As you can see, it sometimes will drop on its own. Inward and outward, since it does have that kind of a joint, it does allow you to, again, remember, it's got a small ball joint in there. So be careful when you do this, but it does have, I guess that is a butterfly joint, right? Once it goes in and out like that, that's a butterfly joint. Not necessarily there's a cut here. All right, so the pelvic thigh region goes pretty good like that. And it does have a drop down joint to further increase the range. Of course, it's going to have getting that outward movement of the leg. I noticed that this is right here. I didn't cause that, I think. I think that was already there. But I'm glad that with the quality issue that they have with these joints, I don't think I've ever had a figure where it's loose on the hips, because then that will be really terrible because he won't be able to stand. Double jointed on the knees, nothing on the boot cut, and ball joint on the ankles. So you got that much of a range. Toe joint. For the articulation on the rocker, you have a little bit already inherently done in there, but if you want to increase it, you can always change the angle of the ball joint. So instead of going forward and backward, you can change it sideways and it will increase it further. Actually, you don't need to. That's a pretty good ankle rocker. All right, so let's replace one of the hands for flight. And you saw me pop that out easily. Not an issue. You'd have a bigger issue putting it on because it is a ball joint socket. You're gonna have resistance at first, so just push it in and then kind of wiggle it back and forth. I feel like that's the best way of popping things. And I don't know why. I'm not really that afraid that this might break. It probably might, because there's a really thin connection in there. So just be careful when you're switching out the hands. Yeah, I guess this is for use of the flight hands, but as you can see, it's just too relaxed for me. It works, but you know. This freak figure, this figure and the design might not be to everybody's taste. I like Beast Kingdom because we're finally getting a very classic look. Theirs is classic. There's no stylized design that was put into the figure like Mezco does or like McFarlane does. They've kind of lessened it in their recent figures, which is, thank goodness, it's just basic. And that's honestly the way I prefer it. I grew up in the world of collecting with Toy Biz, Superpowers, Kenner, figures that are using the same buck body over and over. So that's kind of what I'm accustomed to seeing, or what I have ended up preferring, rather than all these stylized with lines and bumps and textures and everything. Because in the comics, they didn't really have those when I was growing up. So it's just a very simple, classic, very clean look for me. So that's how I prefer my figure. So that's the style of Beast Kingdom is a plus for me. Now, this is not a perfect figure, but this is $48. $48 when you compare to a McFarlane figure. Now, this is their collector line. This comes with a bunch of face plates, I think 3 or 4, some hands, I think, and everything, but it's $35. 45, 35. It's up to you to decide what you find as of value. I believe here it's a better value for me because I think the price on this one is good for what I'm getting, while the price of this one is a lot more than what I appreciate, even though you're getting a lot. Because when I've realized that I love accessories, I want accessories on a figure, obviously. I just don't want accessories to the point that it costs more for us to buy the figure. Accessories are accessories. They're into the figure price already. Like, if this was $25 and you came with that much accessories, then it increases the value for me, obviously. But you put in a standard McFarlane figure, such as this one, and just throw in a bunch of accessories, you're not increasing the value. You're devaluing the figure by increasing the price, which is what they do. And for me, I'm gonna end up not buying the figure because of the higher price and lower value for me, which is what happened to me with McFarlane. Even though I'm still okay with the figure line, the increasing price basically just pushed me out and said the value is not there. Now, each line has its faults, and I am not the type of collector that tends to be really nitpicky or very, very, how would you put it? Like exacting standards. I don't have that for my figure. Like I said, I grew up in Superpowers Toy Biz, where the figure are barely chunks of plastic, anatomically incorrect, barrel chested, lack of details. That's what I grew up on. So I have, for my personal take, a set of standards that I go over a figure. And the faults that are inherent with the design, I can disregard that if the price is right. For example, the loose joints, the inconsistencies of the loose joints, the cape, those things I can kind of forgive because I still think $48 for this thing is a freaking good value. A Mezco now is $100. It has the same amount of range as this one, but it's $100, $120, and it's gonna go up in price. This is still below $50. With McFarlane, the inconsistencies are because they used to use a lot of reuses and everything, and different characters and different designs. They would sometimes end up with larger hands, longer arms, or a teenager would be taller than an adult male, which doesn't make sense to me. Here, I don't get any of that with Beast Kingdom. With McFarlane, I kind of forgave those because back then they were $20 a figure. Now their regular figure is about $24, $26, and I'm kind of having a hard time forgiving that. So I stopped collecting McFarlane, and not because I didn't like their figures anymore. I can still forgive them. I just can't forgive them at the price that they're asking for. I'll go back on McFarlane later on their own set of review because I do have a bunch of them coming in, and I'll tell you guys why. We're going to go back to Beast Kingdom over here. Once you accept the fact that there are going to be inconsistencies with the production of this line, such as the wired cape issue, and the possible looseness of joints, if you can go beyond that and look this and appreciate this for what it is, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying if you appreciate what it brings to you the way I do, meaning classic Superman, classic DC figures, nice physique, look at that. That's just coming out of the comic book. Even the style of Alex Ross, which I love as a DC artist, that's everything here is being ticked off. So if you can go beyond the issues in this one, as I have, this is a great line. It really is. And I really hope it continues more. See, it's squeaky and everything. If they just incorporate that ratcheting system that McFarlane does on these figures, it would eliminate the joint system issue. And then if this is an easier fix too, all they need to do is just maybe use a stronger wire that goes more deeper into the cavity, and that would solve this issue too. And I think that might be the reason why, it has to be the reason why there's an inconsistency on this one, because basically it's the same design that they used on this cape. Look, the pleats stop here as does this one, and yet this one is more tucked in nicely than this one. It's the same one. So I think this one did just fail to tuck it in completely. Unfortunately, this is... So this whole body you can't cut. I feel like in order for me to fix this cape, I would have to remove the neckline, release that, put in the cape, and put it back in. And again, the issue is simply putting the wire in. The second issue is that they used a thinner wire, which I would have to replace. But the third issue is the way they did this is, so this is all glued in with some sort of fabric glue, but I think they applied the flat fabric glue to the entire surface of the fabric and then put in the wire and then really kind of put it in there nice, so that the fabric glue basically glued the fabric into the wire. So it's not like I can open the side up and pull the wire out. Not gonna happen, because the fabric is basically glued into the wire. I would have to take this whole thing out, heat it up or warm it up, so I can release the wire and put my own wire in. I know it sucks and everything, but I would rather get that than do that than and I'm not in any hurry, so I can probably wait for a while. This does not come with a stand, and I feel like because of the floppiness of the joints, this is the figure that definitely could have helped a stand, to have a stand. I basically, and this is one of the reasons why I love my 3D printers, I just basically designed a very simple base and I put it on there. There you go. And then I measured the hole in the sole and made a peg system for it. I've designed this one just so I can put a wire in if I want to. Technically, you don't really need it because the pegs hold it on. I think for this one, or in the Batman, I did, because one of them had the floppy joints on the knee syndrome, so it needed for stability. And also one of the things is that, see, the joint on the thing here is looser than usual. I'm thinking of doing something else for this one, having a second piece for the crotch that you can add on to. But yeah, that's why I love my 3D printer. It's like, it doesn't have a base? No problem. Let me make my own. Anyway, that's it for my review of the Beast Kingdom's Superman based on Alex Ross's Justice Superman for $48. I do believe this is a great figure. I would value this at $12. Very happy with it. In fact, even though it's I waited a long time, I'm really quite happy with it. Maybe I would even give it a 14. For somebody who loves DC figures, who loves the classic look of DC figures, who loves Alex Ross as the artist for DC figures, this figure ticks all of that off and does a really good job. See, this is gonna pop if you're not careful, so just be careful posing it, and you can basically achieve the pose that you want. I'm extremely happy with it. So I would value this initially at 12, but I might even go as high as 13 or 14. As you notice, that's me being careful moving the joint around. This is not one of these figures where you can just do whatever you want. No, it's gonna pop off the shoulder, but it's okay because you can always pop back in. And just easier for me to just be careful moving the joint. Because as you can see, it is kind of squeaking and tight in there. But yeah, that's it for my review. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys on my next review. Bye.